Have you ever wondered why children learn a language so quickly? It's not because they're smarter than you. It's because they learn in a completely different way. Think about it with me. What comes to your mind when I say the word apple? You probably picture that red fruit, right? But then, why is it that when you're learning a new language and you hear in Spanish manzana, you think of the English translation apple instead of seeing the image of the fruit? A child doesn't try to memorize endless lists of words, nor do they translate every term back into their native language. They do something far more powerful. They link the word to the real image of the object, to a living experience. When a child hears perro, they don't think of the English translation dog. They see the animal running. They hear the bark. They feel the joy. That's how the brain connects directly to reality. That's why learning happens naturally. Now imagine you're learning a new word in French, Spanish, or Italian. Most people immediately reach for the translation into their first language. You hear macchina in Italian, and instead of seeing the image of a real car in your mind, you think of the English translation, car. And that's the mistake. When you process a new word by translating it into your native language, your brain doesn't truly learn it. The most powerful way to learn a new language quickly and effectively is to bind words to images. For example, when you hear car, immediately visualize a car. See the wheels turning, feel the engine. Picture yourself driving down the road, rather than translating it into Spanish. Pay very close attention now, because what I'm about to share with you has the power to accelerate your ability to learn any language at a speed that might seem impossible. Here's the truth. The secret isn't in repeating words mechanically or memorizing endless lists. The secret lies in how you direct your mind. When all you do is read, listen, or try to memorize, your brain can trick you. It doesn't push itself. It prefers to spend as little energy as possible, convincing you that you've understood, when in reality, you haven't. That's where so many people go wrong. But when you try to explain something, there's no way to hide from the truth. If you don't truly understand it, you'll stumble. And that stumbling is pure gold. That's the moment your mind shows you exactly where the gaps are. Never settle for memorization alone. Aim to understand. And once you understand, explain it. That's the key almost no one applies, and yet it can multiply the speed of your learning by 27 times. Because the moment you try to explain something out loud, something extraordinary happens in your brain. The connections that were once scattered begin to organize. The simple act of teaching forces your mind to create order out of chaos. It's as if you had pieces of a puzzle scattered across a table, and suddenly you're compelled to fit them together so the picture finally makes sense. That's why you should always explain what you just learned, even if you haven't mastered it yet. Teach it to yourself out loud. Repeat it as if you were giving a class. And if there's someone nearby, dare to explain it to them too. Don't worry if it feels strange, because it's in that effort to organize ideas that your mind locks in the knowledge. Don't be afraid of sounding silly. Don't worry if your explanation comes out incomplete, awkward, or full of holes. The very act of turning thought into words makes your brain work on a different level. And in trying to explain it correctly, your brain automatically pushes itself to learn. That's when you leave the passive mode and step into active learning. And active learning is what separates the people who spend years struggling from the ones who learn in a matter of months. Each time you explain, even to yourself in the mirror, you're reinforcing confidence. You're telling your mind, I can master this. And that self-confidence is fuel. It pushes you to keep going, not to quit, to review until everything is crystal clear. So engrave this law deep inside you. Those who explain, learn. Those who teach, retain. Those who organize what they know achieve mastery. This is the force that turns an ordinary student into someone who can absorb a language 27 times faster. Now understand something crucial. Without this, you'll never be able to learn another language. Concentration. Concentration is everything. Many people study for hours and convince themselves they're making progress, but in reality, they're just wasting time. Studying for hours without focus is wasteful. But 30 minutes of absolute attention? That's pure fire. Here's the key. Use short, focused study sessions with precise breaks. Structure your learning into blocks. For example, if today you want to study for 2 hours, divide it into 4 sessions of 30 minutes each with a 10-minute break between them. But during each of those 30 minutes, cut off every distraction. Silence your phone, close the tabs, and give your full attention to that moment. Think about it. How many times have you tried to study, but your phone buzzed, someone called you, or your mind simply wandered away? That isn't studying, it's self-deception. Distraction is the silent thief that steals years of your life. Every second you allow yourself to be interrupted is a piece of energy stolen from your dream. Focus, and you'll multiply the value of every minute tenfold. And here's another secret. It's not about studying more. It's about studying better. Organize your priorities. If you only have 1 hour a day, don't waste it on irrelevant details. Always ask yourself, what's the single most important thing that will push me forward right now? That answer becomes your compass. By concentrating on the essential, you cut out the excess, remove the fat, and go straight to the muscle of learning. Understand this. Concentration is not a gift only a few people are born with. It's a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. At first, maybe you'll manage only 5 minutes of real focus, then 10, 20, 40. Eventually, you'll reach a point where immersing yourself in the new language feels so natural that you forget the world around you. That is the state where learning explodes, where every minute is worth hours. And no matter your age, your brain is always learning. That's why the very first commandment is this. How should you learn? Never by memorizing. Most people fail because they try to stack words in their head, as if the mind were just a storage box. But the brain wasn't designed to memorize. It was designed to connect, to visualize, to create meaning. That's why every time you learn a new word, don't translate it. When you learn a new word, picture the image of the object itself. If you learn the word coche in Spanish, don't think of the English translation. See the image of a car. Watch the wheels turning. Feel the engine. Imagine yourself driving down the road. That scene ties the word directly to experience, to the real world, without passing through the barrier of translation. In this way, your mind begins to understand the language the same way a child understands the world, naturally, vividly, without intermediaries. Now apply this to everything you learn. If you hear the word manzana in Spanish, don't think of the translation apple. Picture the red fruit shining under the light. Smell its freshness. Feel the crisp texture as you take the first bite. If you learn perro, don't translate it as dog. See the animal running through the park, wagging its tail, barking with joy. That's exactly why children learn a language 27 times faster. They absorb the word together with the image of the object, with the direct experience. Adults, on the other hand, have been conditioned to translate, and that extra step is like carrying a heavy backpack with every word you try to learn. It's slow, exhausting, and ineffective. The secret to speeding up your learning is simple. Go back to learning the way a child does. Connect every word to an image, to a scene, to a sensation. When you learn house, don't think casa in your mind. Picture a door opening, the smell of food coming from the kitchen, the feeling of being inside a home. And when you learn casa in Spanish, don't think house. Picture that same door opening, the aroma of a warm meal, the comfort of family inside. This is the central point of the method. Bring the language into your reality. Turn words into experiences and experiences into memory. The closer the scene you create is to something real, the faster your brain locks it in. So never forget, you can learn any language 27 times faster. No matter your age, no matter how difficult it seems. All you need to do is abandon the old crutch of translation and embrace the power of images, experiences, and explanation. That's how you unlock the potential that has always been inside you. Now understand this. The secret isn't to study for hours and hours without stopping. The brain doesn't learn that way. What really works is to divide your study time into 30-minute blocks of total focus, followed by 10 minutes of rest. In those 30 minutes, shut everything else off and immerse yourself in the language as if nothing else exists. That pause is not wasted time. It's what consolidates your memory and makes the learning stick. But remember, never try to memorize. If you hear carrow, Don't think car. See the car. Feel the steering wheel. Imagine yourself driving. And when you finish your study session, explain out loud what you've just learned. It doesn't matter if it feels strange. By teaching, you force your mind to organize what it knows, and that's when learning multiplies. Short study blocks, imagining instead of translating, and explaining out loud. This is the formula for learning any language at an astonishing speed. Now I want you to do something transformative. Write in the comments below the very first word or phrase you will practice today using this method of images without translation. Put it in writing, because when you commit, your mind takes it seriously. And if this content made sense to you, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because here you'll learn the way few people actually teach. Remember, focus is power, and whoever masters their own mind masters any language and any destiny. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. As soon as you learn something, the biggest trap is keeping it to yourself, believing you've understood. But the human mind loves to deceive itself. It creates the illusion of knowing when in fact it only memorized. The genius discovers the opposite trick. Teach immediately. When you explain something out loud as if you were teaching a child, your brain is forced to organize your thoughts, to separate what you truly understand from what's still vague. Imagine your brain as a muscle. Every time you receive information, it's like lifting a small weight. But here's the truth that changes everything. You don't get stronger by lifting once. You only build strength when you repeat, when you apply, when you test that muscle in different situations. And that's where Richard Feynman's secret comes in, the power of teaching in order to learn. There's a shocking secret about your mind that almost no one dares to reveal. Not because it's too complicated, but because it's too simple. And simplicity has always been the territory of geniuses. Pay close attention to me now, because if you grasp what I'm about to tell you, you will never see learning the same way again. How many times have you read or heard something that seemed clear, but when you tried to explain it, you realized you couldn't? That's not failure. That's a signal. It's your brain exposing the weak points in your understanding. And it's precisely in the act of trying to explain that you strengthen your grasp. It's as if your mind said, now I really need to understand this because I have to make it simple for someone else. This is the secret workshop of geniuses. They don't just keep knowledge, they transform it into clarity. And here's the key. Real learning doesn't happen when you read, listen, or it happens when you translate it into your own words. That's the moment when the mind stops being a spectator and becomes a creator. And when the mind creates, it awakens abilities that were once asleep. Picture yourself doing this starting today. You read a powerful idea, and instead of rushing to the next one, you explain it. You step into the role of a teacher, even if your only student is yourself in front of the mirror. This may sound simple, but it's exactly the kind of simplicity that separates ordinary mind from extraordinary one. Imagine you just learned a powerful idea about discipline. Instead of just thinking, I get it, you stand up and say out loud, discipline is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. Suddenly you've created an image that wasn't in the text but was born from you. And that act of creation burns the knowledge into your mind like a tattoo. Now I want you to understand what this really means in practice. Every time you learn something new, do 3 simple things. First, explain it out loud as if you were teaching someone who has never heard of the subject before. Second, if you stumble over your words or realize you can't simplify it, go back and study that point again until you can. Third, use everyday examples. If it's a concept about focus, compare it to holding a lens that concentrates light into a single point until fire appears. The simpler and more visual, the more powerful the learning becomes. And don't stop there. There's another almost magical trick. Write it down. Writing forces the brain to slow down, to organize, and to give shape to what you've understood. Writing is like building a bridge between your mind and the physical world, and when you later read what you wrote, you're looking at your own thoughts from the outside, like an engineer inspecting his own structure. This sharpens clarity and strengthens memory in a way that's truly remarkable. Most people never do this. They consume information the way they eat fast food. They swallow it, but don't absorb it. The result? They live full of data but empty of understanding. Geniuses don't do that. A genius chews slowly, digests, transforms. They explain, they write, they repeat, until each concept becomes part of their identity. And here's the reflection you must keep in your mind. Learning is not about accumulation, it's about transformation. Every time you teach what you just learned, you're not only reinforcing your memory, you're also creating new doors inside your mind. Doors that lead to insights, creative solutions, and ideas that were hidden before. That is the true unlocking of brain power. Now imagine with me something that could completely change the way you learn. Sitting in front of a book or an idea and diving so deeply that the world around you disappears. This is the state of focus Richard Feynman pursued. He believed that learning is not about keeping your eyes on words, but about putting your whole mind inside the concept. Pay close attention now, because here is one of the greatest secrets of focus: eliminating the excess. The mind was not designed to carry 1,000 things at once. When you try to learn while thinking about text messages, bills to pay, and daily worries, your energy fragments. It's like trying to light a fire with 10 matches in the wind. Nothing catches. But when you protect a single match, it becomes a flame. And from that flame, the fire is born. Focus is exactly that. Protecting your attention from everything else until it becomes a flame strong enough to illuminate and engrave knowledge into your mind. One practical technique you can apply immediately is the concentration notebook. Feynman used to take notes not just to record information, but to clear out mental noise. By writing a clear question at the top of the page, what does this concept really mean? He forced his brain to align in a single direction. All mental energy was guided toward answering that one question. That's what gives depth to learning. Another powerful secret is turning curiosity into fuel. When you learn something only out of obligation, your mind resists. But when you turn it into a game, a challenge, real curiosity, focus lights up on its own. Ask yourself, what does this have to do with the real world? How can I use this idea in a practical way? These questions are like magnets that pull your mind back every time it tries to escape. And remember, focus is not rigidity, it's flow. When you enter this state, you don't feel time passing. You're not fighting distractions. You're simply so absorbed that nothing else matters. That is true deep learning. That is what transforms information into wisdom. Picture yourself applying this today. Instead of just opening a book, you open a portal. You decide that for the next few minutes, nothing exists except the idea in front of you. Each line you read, each word you explain, each example you write is a step deeper into a new universe. This is the experience that awakens the genius already inside you. Now understand this once and for all. The difference between an ordinary mind and a genius mind is not IQ. It's not secret gifts. It's how you train your brain every single day. Teaching in order to learn, writing to organize, focusing with intensity, and giving yourself fully to knowledge. Imagine the power of applying this in your own life. You don't just learn faster. You start to think with clarity, to create solutions others can't see, and to turn every idea into action. This is the state of mental greatness that Feynman lived by, and it's the state you can live too, if you choose to apply it. And here's my final request. Don't let this knowledge pass by like just another video you watch and forget. Write right now in the comments, "I will unlock my brain," to affirm this commitment to yourself. That simple act will anchor in your mind the decision to take action. If this video made sense to you, hit the like button right now because it shows you're on the right path. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications, because here you'll find more secrets and lessons to expand your mind and live at the highest level of your potential. Remember, the mind doesn't expand on its own, it expands when you act. This is the moment to act, and if you've made it this far, you've already proven you're ready to go further. Your mind is the most powerful tool in the universe. With it, you can completely transform your reality. Everything you're living today is the result of thoughts that were planted yesterday, and everything you will achieve tomorrow depends on what you choose to think right now. Pay very close attention to me in this moment because I'm about to reveal something extraordinary. There is a single habit that can train your mind to create the life you want. A habit so powerful it turns failures into opportunities, ideas into businesses, and knowledge into wealth. This habit is the secret to learning anything quickly, and more importantly, using that knowledge to build freedom and prosperity. The world is full of intelligent people, but very few know how to turn intelligence into results. What separates those who move forward from those who stay behind is exactly this habit. the refusal to live with shallow knowledge. Those who master this process create wealth because they see what others can't. They find solutions where others only see obstacles. They create opportunities where most people only see problems. Now think about this. How many times have you convinced yourself that you weren't good at something, when in truth you had simply never applied this habit? The truth is, your mind has no limits except the ones you accept. And when you decide to cultivate absolute clarity about every idea you touch, you unlock a creative force that can completely change the course of your life. This is the turning point. A mind trained with this habit stops being a warehouse of random information and becomes a factory of wealth and innovation. Now listen closely, because here is the key. Stop lying to yourself. The only thing standing between you and the life you dream of is not the government, not the economy, not luck. It's your mind. If you don't master your mind, forget wealth, forget success, forget freedom. Because everything starts inside. There is one habit powerful enough to transform your life in a brutal way. Training your mind every single day until you completely master it. That means no longer being a slave to your emotions, no longer hiding behind excuses, and finally facing your mistakes head on. Ordinary people run away from pain. Extraordinary people use pain as fuel to grow. Every time you feel weak, lazy, anxious, or afraid, that is the moment to train. That is the moment to strengthen the most powerful muscle in the universe, your mind. Training the body gives you strength. Training the mind gives you power. And mental power is worth more than any bank account, because a trained mind creates wealth, creates solutions, creates paths where before there were only walls. Ask yourself every single day, where am I failing? Don't hide behind justifications. Don't throw responsibility onto others. Have the courage to look your mistakes in the eye and ask, how can I improve right now? That question, repeated daily, is what separates the mediocre from the unstoppable. The truth is harsh. As long as you keep letting your emotions control you, you will keep living small. But the moment you decide to train your mind like a warrior sharpens his sword, everything changes. Your mind stops being the enemy and becomes the most lethal weapon you possess. Training the mind means cutting the excess, eliminating weak thoughts, silencing doubt, replacing emotion with strategy. You don't need cheap motivation. You need brutal clarity. The habit is simple. Look at yourself without filters, and don't turn away from the answer. Those who run from this question are condemned to mediocrity. Those who face it every day grow. Is it uncomfortable? Yes, but it's discomfort that shapes giants. Pay very close attention to me right now. Mastering the mind means stepping into a battlefield every single day. It is war. You have to wake up each morning determined not to be a prisoner of your own thoughts. An undisciplined mind invents excuses, creates fears, fabricates limits that don't exist. It whispers, I can't, not today, maybe tomorrow. And you believe it. You live trapped by a weak voice that sabotages you. That ends today. From this day forward, face the raw truth and accept reality exactly as it is. When anger comes, channel it into production. When fear knocks at your door, face it like a soldier defending his country. Your mind is your most precious asset, more valuable than gold. Everything that exists in your life began first as a thought. Every victory, every defeat, every opportunity taken or wasted was born inside your head. And now you need to understand something. Failure is inevitable. Procrastination at some point is inevitable too. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. The problem is not failing. The problem is refusing to learn from failure. The problem is not procrastinating one day. The problem is turning procrastination into a lifestyle. Accept that you will stumble, but decide that every stumble will become a lesson. And here is one of the most powerful tools to master the mind. Write. Write down your thoughts, your goals, your mistakes, your progress. The mind is messy when it only lives inside your head, but the moment you put it on paper, you create clarity. What was chaos becomes direction. What was a storm becomes a plan. Procrastination is often tied to stress and anxiety. You delay because your mind is overloaded, because there is a fear of not being perfect, because there is an inner pressure that paralyzes you. Recognize this. And when procrastination shows up, don't blame yourself. Observe it. Ask, what is stressing me right? What can I simplify? Many times the key is breaking the task into smaller steps and starting with the simplest one. Mastering the mind also means respecting your limits. You don't have to do everything at once. You just need to give your best today. The maximum clarity, the maximum effort, the maximum discipline that is within your reach right now. Tomorrow, you do it again. And with time, this consistency builds mental strength, builds character, builds results. So remember this: the mind is not mastered through perfection. It is mastered through training. It is mastered through repetition. It is mastered through the courage to look within and the discipline to correct what needs to be corrected. Accept that you are human, but never accept being a prisoner of your own mind. You must train your mind every single day, the same way you train a muscle. Train it so you don't get lost in uncontrolled emotions. Train it so you don't believe weak thoughts. Train it to turn fear into action, anxiety into focus, and anger into productive energy. Write. Put your goals, your failures, your victories on paper, because the mind deceives, but paper shows the truth. Clarity is born the moment you face your thoughts outside your head. Every line you write is a piece of chaos you organize. And when procrastination shows up, because it will, remember this: many times it's only a signal of stress, of overload, of fear of not being perfect. Breathe, simplify, break the task into smaller steps, and start with the very first one. Movement destroys inertia. Mastering the mind is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about giving your very best today, even if it's little, and then repeating tomorrow and the next day until you become impossible to break. It's about building discipline when no one is watching. It's about facing discomfort on purpose, because you know that's where true strength is born. This is the habit, the daily practice of shaping your mind until it becomes your greatest ally. Because in the end, it's not the world that decides who you will be. It's the mind you choose to train every single day. Now that you've understood the power of this habit, I want you to do something simple but transformative. Write in the comments the phrase, "I master my mind." That will be your first step toward mastering your mind for success. Write it as a decree, a commitment to your own greatness. Because when you declare it, you reinforce inside yourself the identity of someone who has already chosen to win. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more transformative videos inspired by the world's greatest thinkers. Every day, new ideas, new lessons, and new tools to help you build your best self.
January 28th, 1986. A physicist sits at a government hearing table, a glass of ice water in front of him. Cameras roll as NASA officials deliver carefully prepared testimony about the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster that killed 7 astronauts 6 weeks earlier. The physicist isn't listening. He's watching a rubber ring soak in the ice water. Then, mid-testimony, he interrupts. He removes the ring with a small clamp, holds it up to his microphone, and squeezes it. When he releases, the rubber stays compressed. "I discovered that when you undo the clamp, the rubber doesn't spring back," he says into the microphone. The room goes silent. In 30 seconds of unauthorized demonstration, Richard Feynman just destroyed months of NASA's carefully constructed narrative. This comes directly from Feynman's documented testimony to the Rogers Commission, February 11, 1986, and his later account in What Do You Care What Other People Think?, published in 1988. The ice water demonstration became the defining image of the investigation, but the story of how a Nobel Prize-winning physicist ended up embarrassing NASA on live television reveals something far more valuable than what happened to a rubber seal. 6 weeks earlier, on that January morning, Feynman was at his Caltech office when the Challenger exploded 73 seconds after launch. He watched the footage like everyone else, the white trails diverging against blue sky, the cabin tumbling toward the ocean. Krista McAuliffe, the teacher who was supposed to inspire a generation about space exploration, died along with 6 other crew members. President Reagan announced a commission to investigate, and then Feynman's phone rang. William Rogers, the former Secretary of State leading the commission, wanted him to join. Feynman said no. He was 67, fighting cancer for the second time, and he'd spent a career avoiding government committees. "I don't know anything about rockets," he told Rogers, but Rogers kept calling, so did NASA. They all wanted the credibility a Nobel laureate brings. Feynman understood this game. Put famous scientists on a panel, let engineers write the report. Everyone signs off, nothing changes. He'd seen it before. He told his wife Gwyneth, "They don't want me to investigate. They want me to give them legitimacy." But Gwyneth saw something he didn't. "You're going to do it anyway," she said. "You'll spend every day reading about it in the newspaper, getting frustrated that they're asking the wrong questions. You might as well be there." She was right. 3 days later, Feynman flew to Washington. The first commission meeting revealed exactly what he'd feared. 12 distinguished members sat around a table while NASA presented slide after slide of technical data, charts, graphs, acronyms. The other commissioners nodded along. Feynman raised his hand. "What's an SRB?"
Suggestion of a temperature at which the SRB, I guess you call it,
Yes, sir.
shouldn't be run.
Yes, sir. There was.
Silence. Nobody wanted to admit they didn't know either. "Solid rocket booster," someone finally said. Feynman kept his hand up. "What's an SRM?" More silence. These were the people investigating a rocket disaster, and they didn't know basic terminology. That's when Feynman understood the real problem wasn't technical. He started his own investigation that night. While other commissioners attended official dinners and briefings, Feynman took a taxi to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. He knew engineers there, people who designed things, built things, people who actually touched hardware. "Show me how this works," he'd say, pointing at technical drawings. They walked him through every system, and whenever they used a term he didn't know, he stopped them. "Explain it to me like I'm 5, he'd demand. Not because he couldn't understand complexity, but because he'd learned something crucial years earlier in his physics research. If someone can't explain something simply, they don't actually understand it themselves. This wasn't just stubbornness. This was a method. Feynman had discovered that expertise creates its own form of blindness. Engineers at NASA had been launching shuttles for years. They'd developed specialized language, internal assumptions, comfortable ways of thinking that nobody questioned anymore. An outsider asking stupid questions forces them to examine those assumptions, and in those examinations, truth emerges. But the official hearings continued in their scripted way. NASA executives testified about procedures and protocols. They showed videos of previous successful launches. They emphasized the shuttle's safety record, 24 missions without catastrophic failure. The message was clear. This was a freak accident, an unforeseeable tragedy. Feynman sat through these presentations, watching commissioners accept the narrative. Then he started hearing different stories. Late one evening at JPL, an engineer pulled him aside. "We knew about the O-rings," the engineer said quietly. "The seals on the solid rocket boosters. They've been eroding for years. We've seen it in post-flight inspections. We wrote reports." Feynman's antenna went up. "What reports?" The engineer looked around nervously. They're classified. I shouldn't even be telling you this. Here's where most people would have moved cautiously, gone through official channels, requested proper access. Feynman did the opposite. The next morning, he called the engineer back. "I'm on the commission," he said. "I have clearance. Send me everything." Within 48 hours, he had documentation that NASA had known about O-ring erosion on previous flights. Engineers had recommended not launching when temperatures dropped below 53 degrees Fahrenheit. The morning of the Challenger launch, the temperature at Kennedy Space Center was 36 degrees. The rubber O-rings created a seal between segments of the solid rocket boosters. When cold, the rubber became less flexible. Less flexible meant slower to seal. Slower to seal meant hot gases could escape during ignition. Escaped gases meant catastrophic failure. Engineers had explained this to management. Management had launched anyway. But this wasn't in any official testimony Feynman had heard. He brought the documents to the next commission meeting. William Rogers wasn't pleased. "We need to follow procedures," Rogers said. "We can't just ambush NASA with unauthorized information." Feynman looked at him. "7 people are dead," he said. "What procedure is more important than that?" This moment captures something essential about how institutions corrupt truth. Rogers wasn't a bad person. He wasn't trying to cover up the disaster. But he'd spent decades in government, learning how things work, understanding that investigations have rhythms, protocols, political considerations. You don't embarrass powerful agencies publicly. You negotiate findings privately. You write diplomatic reports. Everyone saves face. The machine keeps running. Feynman didn't care about the machine. He'd never learned those rules, never wanted to. His entire career had been built on a different principle. Nature doesn't negotiate. Physics doesn't care about your protocols. A rubber seal either works at 36 degrees or it doesn't. The truth is the truth, regardless of who it embarrasses. But he still needed proof that anyone could understand. Technical reports weren't enough. Commissioners' eyes glazed over at engineering specifications. He needed something visual, immediate, undeniable. That's when he thought of the ice water. The night before the February 11th hearing, Feynman sat in his hotel room with a piece of O-ring material he had obtained from NASA. He dropped it in ice water from the minibar. After a few minutes, he removed it and squeezed it with pliers. When he released the pressure, the rubber stayed compressed. It had lost resilience. He did it again. Same result. It was such a simple test. A child could understand it. Why hadn't NASA executives mentioned this in their testimony? The answer reveals how expertise creates distance from reality. NASA's leadership weren't engineers anymore. They were managers, administrators, people who read reports written by other people who read reports. They dealt in abstractions, acceptable risk percentages, mission success probabilities, cost-benefit analyses. Somewhere in that chain of delegation, the physical reality got lost. Nobody at the top was actually squeezing rubber in ice water. They were managing the process of managing the people who managed the engineers. So, Feynman walked into that February hearing with his simple demonstration planned. But Rogers had gotten wind of it. Before the session started, he pulled Feynman aside. "Don't do anything dramatic," Rogers said. "Let's present findings methodically through proper channels." Feynman nodded. Then, during NASA's testimony about component reliability, he interrupted anyway. The ice water demonstration wasn't just scientific theater. It was a statement about how truth works. You don't need committees and subcommittees and 6-month studies to understand that cold rubber doesn't spring back. You need ice water and eyes. NASA had spent weeks crafting testimony about anomalous joint performance and thermal environments outside certified parameters. Feynman showed that all those words meant it was too cold and the rubber broke. The footage of that moment shows something fascinating. Watch NASA officials' faces when Feynman holds up the compressed O-ring. There's no surprise there, no shock, just resignation. They already knew. They'd known for years. What Feynman had done wasn't reveal new information to NASA. It was reveal to the public what NASA had been hiding from itself. Because that's the sophisticated form of institutional lying. NASA engineers hadn't sat in a room and decided to deceive the public. They'd participated in something more insidious. A bureaucratic process where uncomfortable truths get filtered, softened, contextualized, and eventually buried under layers of management review. An engineer writes, "Do not launch below 53 degrees Fahrenheit." A manager reads, "Launch constraints exist at certain temperatures." An executive hears, "There are some temperature considerations." A politician announces, "NASA maintains rigorous safety standards." Nobody technically lied. The truth just got progressively diluted until it stopped mattering. Feynman's ice water demonstration shorted out that entire circuit. It went directly from physical reality to public consciousness, bypassing every filter. Rogers was furious. NASA was humiliated. But the truth was now undeniable. 6 weeks later, NASA officially acknowledged that O-ring failure caused the disaster, and that management had overruled engineer recommendations not to launch. But here's what makes this story more than just a historical anecdote about one commission. The same pattern repeats constantly in modern organizations. Right now, in companies around the world, someone knows something important is broken. They've written reports, they've sent emails, they've voiced concerns in meetings, and somewhere between their keyboard and executive action, that knowledge is being filtered, softened, contextualized, and buried. You've experienced this. You've been in the meeting where everyone knows the project is failing, but nobody says it directly. You've seen the product ship with known defects because the launch date was politically important. You've watched companies promote confident incompetence while ignoring knowledgeable skeptics. The Challenger disaster wasn't an anomaly. It was bureaucracy working exactly as bureaucracy works, optimizing for internal harmony over external reality. Feynman understood this because he'd built his career on a different principle. In physics, you can't manage reality. You can't have a meeting with the universe and negotiate better laws. Nature is the ultimate honest broker. Your theories either match observations or they don't. This created in Feynman a almost physical revulsion to intellectual dishonesty. He couldn't tolerate watching smart people lie to themselves through sophisticated language. The Rogers Commission eventually published its report. It was diplomatic, measured, carefully worded. But Feynman wasn't satisfied. He wrote his own appendix, published separately, that was characteristically blunt. For a successful technology, reality must take precedence over public relations, for nature cannot be fooled, he wrote. NASA had spent years doing public relations about safety. Nature responded by killing 7 astronauts. This appendix reveals Feynman's deepest insight about expertise and authority. NASA's leadership weren't stupid or malicious. They were sophisticated people who'd convinced themselves that managing risk was the same as eliminating it. They'd built elaborate systems for tracking problems, reviewing concerns, assessing probabilities. The systems made them feel scientific and rigorous. But systems can't replace actually squeezing rubber in ice water and watching what happens. The same trap awaits anyone in a position of authority. The higher you rise in an organization, the more your information comes filtered through other people. You read reports instead of observing directly. You hear summaries instead of seeing data. You make decisions based on presentations instead of reality. This isn't laziness, it's how organizations scale. But it creates a dangerous distance between your understanding and the truth. Feynman's method offers a solution, though it's uncomfortable. Never trust information you haven't verified yourself. When someone tells you the product is ready to ship, ask to see it. When engineers say something is safe, ask them to demonstrate it. When executives present optimistic forecasts, demand to see the underlying assumptions. This doesn't mean rejecting expertise. It means refusing to accept authority as a substitute for evidence. This principle applies beyond corporate failures. Consider how you consume information daily. Experts on social media make confident claims. Companies publish research that coincidentally supports their products. News articles cite studies show without linking to studies. Everyone's selling a version of reality that serves their interests. Feynman's ice water test asks, can you demonstrate this simply? Can you show me the actual evidence? Or are we just managing words? The same question applies to your own expertise. When you explain your work to someone outside your field, can you make it concrete? Or do you retreat into jargon and complexity? When someone questions your conclusions, can you show them the evidence? Or do you appeal to credentials and authority? Feynman's standard was brutal. If you can't explain it clearly, you don't understand it. And if you don't understand it, no amount of sophisticated language makes it true. But there's a cost to this approach. Rogers never forgave Feynman for the ice water demonstration. NASA officials resented him for years. Other commission members thought he'd violated protocol and embarrassed everyone. He'd broken the unspoken rules about how investigations work. You find the truth privately, then present it diplomatically, giving everyone time to prepare their responses and save face. Feynman's response captured his entire philosophy. I don't care about saving face. I care about saving lives. This sounds heroic in retrospect, especially when you're on the right side of history. But it's genuinely difficult in the moment. Speaking truth to power means making powerful people uncomfortable. It means being excluded from future opportunities. It means watching colleagues who play the game advance while you're labeled difficult. Yet Feynman believed this was the only honest way to live. In his later interviews, he reflected on the investigation. I believe that a scientist looking at non-scientific problems is just as dumb as the next guy. And when he talks about a non-scientific matter, he sounds as naive as anyone untrained in the matter. But I think I'm as dumb as the next guy about everything but science. But when it comes to science, I have a special knack for getting to the truth. That special knack wasn't mysterious. It was treating reality as the ultimate authority. It was refusing to let sophisticated language obscure simple facts. It was being willing to look stupid by asking basic questions. It was preferring embarrassing demonstrations over diplomatic reports. These aren't superhuman abilities. They're choices anyone can make, but they're uncomfortable choices that require giving up the social benefits of playing along. The Challenger investigation ended in June 1986. NASA implemented the Commission's recommendations. Shuttle flights resumed in 1988 with redesigned O-rings. Feynman went back to Caltech, where he continued teaching until cancer finally killed him in 1988. But his appendix to the Rogers Report remains one of the most cited documents about organizational failure and institutional honesty. Here's what matters. Feynman didn't expose NASA's lies because he was smarter than everyone else. He exposed them because he was willing to be the person who brings ice water to a government hearing. He was willing to look naive by asking obvious questions. He was willing to break protocol for truth. These aren't talents. They're choices that carry real costs. Every organization right now has someone playing Feynman's role. The engineer who keeps bringing up the problem everyone wants to ignore. The junior employee who asks why we're doing things the obviously broken way. The analyst who won't sign off on the numbers everyone else accepted. Those people are usually dismissed as not understanding how things work, as being difficult, as not being team players. Usually they're eventually proven right, but only after the disaster they predicted occurs. The question Feynman's story asks isn't whether you can spot institutional lying in other organizations. That's easy from the outside. The question is, can you spot it in your own? Can you see where your company is managing language instead of fixing problems? Where your team is coordinating narratives instead of confronting reality? Where you personally are accepting comfortable fictions because the truth would be inconvenient? And the harder question, when you do spot it, will you bring the ice water? That February morning in 1986, Feynman had every reason to stay quiet. He was sick, famous, respected. He could have signed the diplomatic report, flown back to California, and let NASA's narrative stand. Nobody would have blamed him. Instead, he brought ice water to a government hearing and embarrassed one of the world's most prestigious institutions on live television. Not because he was brave or contrarian by nature, but because once you've spent your life learning that nature doesn't negotiate, you can't pretend humans get to. The ice water test works because it's honest. Water either freezes or it doesn't. Rubber either springs back or it stays compressed. Reality doesn't care about your management structure or your public relations strategy or your career concerns. It just is what it is. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply show people what's really there. Feynman died believing that science's greatest gift isn't technology or knowledge. It's a method for seeing through bullshit, a way of demanding evidence over authority, demonstration over assertion, reality over comfortable fiction. The ice water demonstration wasn't about rubber seals. It was about refusing to let sophistication obscure truth. That refusal is available to anyone. You don't need a Nobel Prize to bring evidence to a meeting. You don't need decades of expertise to ask for simple demonstrations of complex claims. You don't need Feynman's genius to choose reality over politics. You just need ice water and the willingness to look naive. Somewhere right now, in a meeting room, or a government hearing, or a corporate presentation, someone is managing words to obscure an uncomfortable truth. And somewhere else, someone is deciding whether to be the person who brings the ice water. Feynman's lesson isn't about physics. It's about that decision, and what happens when you make it.
Dark matter often sounds confusing because the name suggests something strange or unknowable. In reality, the idea grows out of very ordinary observations about motion and gravity. Nothing about it starts with mystery for its own sake. It begins with careful measurement and a simple question: does what we see account for how things move? Consider a galaxy as a vast system of stars orbiting a common center. Gravity provides the attraction that keeps those stars bound together. By measuring how fast stars move at different distances from the center, it becomes possible to estimate how much mass must be present. This approach works reliably for familiar systems, such as planets around the sun. When astronomers applied the same reasoning to galaxies, something unexpected appeared. Stars far from the center moved much faster than a visible matter could justify. The stars' gas and dust that telescopes revealed did not provide enough gravitational influence to explain the motion. The galaxy behaved as though it contained much more mass than could be seen. At first, this seemed like a measurement problem. Instruments improved, data sets expanded. The result remained. The same mismatch appeared across many galaxies, and later in large collections of galaxies. Motion consistently pointed to additional mass spread well beyond the bright regions. At that point, the issue could not be dismissed. Either gravity behaved differently on large scales, or a large amount of matter influenced motion without interacting with light. Dark matter enters as a name for that missing influence. The term does not describe what it is made of. It describes how it behaves. It refers to whatever produces gravitational effects without emitting or absorbing light. This way of thinking fits naturally within physics. Physical existence does not depend on visibility. It depends on measurable influence. Long before air was understood, its effects on motion and pressure made its presence undeniable. Dark matter occupies a similar logical role, though on cosmic scales. Evidence extends beyond galaxy rotation. Light passing near massive clusters bends more than visible matter alone predicts. The large-scale structure of the universe forms in ways that require additional gravitational influence early in cosmic history. Each observation points to unseen mass shaping space and motion. A deeper question follows naturally. Does this unseen influence come from a new kind of matter, or does it signal a need to revise how gravity behaves across vast distances? Both ideas aim to explain the same observations. Understanding dark matter begins with accepting that gravity responds to mass whether that mass shines or not. Following that influence carefully leads deeper into how matter, gravity, and the structure of space itself fit together. Following that influence leads straight into how dark matter becomes more than a label and turns into a measurable part of modern physics. One of the clearest moments came in the 1970s through the work of astronomer Vera Rubin, working with Kent Ford. Rubin studied how stars move within spiral galaxies. According to gravitational reasoning that works everywhere else, stars farther from the center should move more slowly, much like distant planets around the sun. What Rubin found refused to follow that expectation. The outer stars moved at nearly the same speed as inner ones. The motion traced a flat curve rather than a declining one. That result carried a sharp implications. Either gravity changed its behavior at galactic scales, or far more mass surrounded the galaxy than telescopes revealed. Rubin's careful measurements, repeated across many galaxies, pushed the idea of unseen mass from speculation into necessity. From there, the concept grew stronger through independent methods.
One of the most striking involves how massive objects bend light. Einstein's description of gravity predicts that mass curves the paths of light traveling nearby. Astronomers use this effect, called gravitational lensing, to map where mass resides. In the early 2000s, observations of a system known as the bullet cluster, analyzed by Douglas Clow and collaborators, showed something remarkable. Ordinary matter, visible as hot gas, slowed and piled up after a collision between two galaxy clusters. The gravitational influence traced by lensing appeared somewhere else entirely. The dominant mass passed through with little interaction. That separation mattered. It showed that the unseen mass behaved differently from familiar matter. It clumped gravitationally, yet barely interacted through collisions or light. Gravity revealed its presence even where visible matter lagged behind. These observations point toward what dark matter represents at a fundamental level. Dark matter functions as a source of gravity that interacts very weakly, if at all, through other known forces. It contributes mass energy to space, shapes motion, and influences how structures form, while remaining largely indifferent to light, heat, and ordinary collisions. This challenges everyday assumptions deeply. In daily life, matter announces itself through sight, touch, resistance, or heat. Mass seems inseparable from substance you can point to. On cosmic scales, that intuition breaks down. Motion responds to gravity alone, not to visibility. A star follows the gravitational landscape laid out by all mass present, regardless of whether that mass glows. Physicists model dark matter using this principle. Instead of asking what it looks like, they ask how much gravitational influence appears necessary at each location to account for observed motion and lensing. Computer simulations then distribute dark matter in extended halos around galaxies and clusters. When these models evolve forward in cosmic time, they reproduce the large-scale structure seen in surveys, filaments, clusters, and voids arranged in a vast web. This success matters. It shows that treating dark matter as a real component of the universe leads to consistent predictions across independent observations. The same invisible mass explains galaxy rotation, cluster dynamics, lensing maps, and the growth of structure from the early universe. At the deepest level currently accessible, dark matter represents mass that participates fully in gravity while remaining largely disconnected from electromagnetic processes. It behaves as matter in the gravitational sense, contributing to how space responds and how motion unfolds, without behaving like atoms, gas, or dust. That realization reshapes how matter itself gets defined. Matter no longer requires visibility, solidity, or chemical structure. Gravitational influence becomes the defining feature. If something shapes motion persistently and consistently, physics treats it as real. This view also explains why dark matter fits naturally into descriptions of space and time. Gravity responds to energy and mass, regardless of form. Space curves, and motion responds based on total content, not on what that content looks like. Dark matter enters those equations seamlessly because gravity already accounts for unseen contributors. What remains uncertain concerns composition. Many candidates exist, ranging from new elementary particles to more complex possibilities. Experiments search for rare interactions deep underground, in particle accelerators, and through astrophysical signals. None have yet delivered a definitive answer. What remains firm lies in the gravitational evidence. Dark matter, at this stage, stands as a measured component of the universe, inferred through multiple independent techniques. It represents how much mass must exist for space, motion, and structure to behave the way observations show. Understanding it means accepting that the universe carries substance beyond what eyes and instruments tuned to light can reveal, and that gravity serves as the guide, linking the unseen to everything that moves within it. As dark matter takes its place within physical descriptions, its consequences begin to appear across many areas at the same time. Observations that once felt isolated start to support each other, and familiar ideas about matter, structure, and influence lose their apparent simplicity. The large-scale arrangement of the universe offers one of the clearest examples. Galaxies do not scatter randomly. They collect along immense filaments, surround vast empty regions, and assemble into clusters connected by long strands of mass. Early attempts to explain this structure using only visible matter ran into a timing problem. Ordinary matter, interacting strongly with radiation in the early universe, could not gather quickly enough under gravity to form the structures observed today. Introducing dark matter resolves this tension naturally. Dark matter begins clumping early, before atoms form and before light moves freely through space. It supplies gravitational wells that deepen over time. Ordinary matter later falls into these wells, cools, and forms stars and galaxies. Structure develops in a sequence that matches observation without repeated adjustments. From this perspective, galaxies appear less like independent systems and more like visible highlights tracing an underlying framework. Their shapes, motions, and distributions reflect a deeper mass arrangement that remains unseen. This leads to an unexpected reversal of intuition. Human senses treat visible matter as dominant because it announces itself. On cosmic scales, gravity responds to total mass regardless of appearance. The universe organizes itself according to what contributes gravitational influence, not according to what emits light. Time itself enters the story in a revealing way. The timeline of cosmic evolution aligns far more smoothly when dark matter is included. Small density differences present early on grow at rates consistent with observation. Galaxies form neither too early nor too late. Clusters assemble when expected. A single additional component resolves multiple chronological puzzles at once. Gravitational lensing reinforces this unified picture. Light bends when passing through regions of mass, allowing astronomers to map where gravitational influence resides. These maps repeatedly show mass distributed beyond the boundaries of visible matter. Extended halos surround galaxies and clusters, revealing smooth mass distributions without sharp edges. Here, everyday reasoning begins to fail. Mass feels naturally tied to compact objects with clear boundaries. Dark matter spreads over large regions, forming halos that resist collapse into dense structures. This distribution explains why galaxies remain bound even when their stars move rapidly. The motion reflects the presence of an extended gravitational environment rather than a concentrated core. Another tension arises from how dark matter interacts. In ordinary matter, interactions leave traces: heat, light, friction, radiation. Dark matter interacts powerfully through gravity while remaining almost indifferent to other forces. During collisions between galaxy clusters, ordinary gas slows and heats, while dark matter continues onward, detectable only through its gravitational influence. This challenges assumptions about interaction and causality. Influence often feels inseparable from exchange. Dark matter demonstrates that gravity alone suffices to connect systems and shape motion without exchanging light or heat. Causality remains intact because influence still propagates through space, even if it does so through a single channel. A broader picture emerges. The universe resembles a gravitational network in which different components participate differently. Ordinary matter interacts richly through many forces, but contributes modestly to gravity on large scales. Dark matter contributes strongly to gravity while interacting weakly otherwise. Each component shapes cosmic behavior through its own interaction profile. Early skepticism treated dark matter as a placeholder for error. Over time, mismatches appeared repeatedly and independently. Galaxy rotation, lensing, cluster dynamics, and structure formation all pointed toward the same missing contribution. Adding dark matter did not patch individual discrepancies. It revealed a shared cause. This coherence explains why dark matter remains difficult to detect directly. Instruments designed to capture light or heat cannot register something that barely engages with those processes. Its presence must be inferred through motion, lensing, and large-scale structure. Physics already relies on inference in many domains. Gravity itself announces its existence only through effects. This reliance on inference carries an important implication. The universe does not restrict itself to what human senses evolved to detect. Perception samples a narrow band of reality. Physics expands that band by following consistent effects wherever they lead, even beyond direct observation. Dark matter also reshapes how space itself is understood. Gravity links mass energy to the geometry of space-time. If most mass resides in dark matter, then large-scale curvature reflects that unseen contribution. The paths galaxies follow, the way light bends, and the formation of structure all depend on it. This places dark matter at the center rather than the margins of cosmology. The universe responds primarily to what weighs the most, not to what shines the brightest. Computer simulations highlight this point vividly. Models that include dark matter evolve into structures resembling observed surveys, complete with filaments, clusters, and voids. Models that exclude it fail in systematic ways. Structures appear late, thin, or incomplete. Each failure points back to the same missing ingredient. Viewed individually, these observations might invite separate explanations. Taken together, they form a consistent narrative. Motion, lensing, timing, and structure all trace the same gravitational influence. The meaning of dark matter extends beyond accounting for missing mass. It indicates that physical reality includes components operating outside direct detection, shaping outcomes through long-term, large-scale influence. This does not diminish ordinary matter. It places it within a wider context. Stars and planets become visible expressions of deeper gravitational organization. What shines follows what weighs. Understanding dark matter in this way changes how explanation itself works. Instead of relying on appearance, physics relies on convergence. Multiple independent measurements pointing toward the same unseen cause outweigh the absence of direct detection. Dark matter connects gravity, motion, space, and cosmic history into a unified framework. Each reinforces the others. What once appeared as scattered anomalies now reads as different perspectives on the same underlying structure. That realization carries an important implication. The universe remains intelligible even when much of it lies beyond immediate perception. Careful attention to effects leads to coherence rather than confusion. Dark matter does not sit alongside the story of the universe. It runs through it, shaping how matter gathers, how structures form, and how motion unfolds across vast distances. Understanding that thread transforms many isolated puzzles into a connected picture, revealing a universe that proves larger, yet no less ordered than it first appears. When all the pieces are viewed together, dark matter settles into a clear role rather than remaining a loose hypothesis. It provides a consistent way to understand how the universe behaves on the largest scales, tying motion, structure, and stability into a single picture supported by many observations. Galaxies rotate as they do because they sit inside extended regions of unseen mass. Clusters remain bound because additional gravitational influence surrounds them. Light bends along paths shaped by more mass than telescopes reveal. Large-scale structure forms early and grows in the right way because extra gravitational influence shapes space long before stars appear. Together, these facts reinforce one explanation. This convergence marks what physics treats as firmly established. A substantial amount of matter contributes gravitationally across the universe while remaining largely invisible to light and ordinary interactions. Its presence is inferred through motion, lensing, and structure, and those inferences agree across different methods, scales, and eras. Removing this component breaks that agreement. Including it restores consistency. What remains uncertain lies in the details rather than the existence. The exact nature of dark matter remains unknown. Its composition, internal properties, and origin resist direct detection. Experiments search for rare interactions. Observations probe subtle effects. The absence of a definitive identification sets the boundary of current knowledge. This balance between confidence and uncertainty matters. Dark matter does not represent a missing piece filled in by guesswork. It represents a component required by evidence, even as its deeper description remains incomplete. Its strength lies in how many independent observations it unifies without contradiction. Including dark matter reshapes how stability itself is understood. Systems remain intact not only because of what shines within them, but because of what weighs around them. Motion responds to total gravitational influence, not to visibility. Structure follows mass, whether that mass announces itself or not. This perspective alters how familiar scenes are interpreted. The night sky no longer appears as a collection of isolated lights scattered across emptiness. Each bright point traces a deeper gravitational environment shared with countless others. What can be seen marks only a fraction of what governs motion and form. Dark matter also clarifies why the universe remains intelligible. The same principles explain galaxies, clusters, and cosmic structure without changing rules from one scale to another. Gravity responds consistently. Motion follows predictably. Stability emerges naturally. The practical takeaway rests here. Reality extends beyond direct detection, and physics follows influence rather than appearance. Some of the most important contributors to how the universe behaves do not announce themselves through light, heat, or touch. They reveal themselves through what they shape over time. Understanding dark matter encourages a broader view of existence. What matters most is not always what stands out, but what holds everything else together. The universe evolves under the guidance of influences that operate indirectly yet persistently, shaping motion, structure, and history across vast distances. Seen this way, dark matter stops feeling distant or abstract. It becomes part of the framework that allows galaxies to form, motion to remain stable, and the universe to develop structure at all.